Instagram, so hang on, folks. We got to get all our cameras running at once here. So it's always something special. One camera doesn't want to act nice. Okay, welcome, folks. Got it all. I'm Dr. Joe Esposito. Glad you could be here. Got to get all our cameras synced up there. Glad you're here. If the first time you're joining us, welcome. The way this works is I talk for 24 minutes. You, whatever questions you have, type in whatever platform you're on, and I will then answer your questions at the 24-minute break. And then the next 24 minutes, I'll talk again, and then we'll answer more questions at 24 minutes again. So it's a pretty simple process. If you're listening live, please put in hashtag live. If you're listening on a replay, please put in hashtag replay. And this way we know who's listening and who's not, and it's fine. Right now it's 1 o'clock on March 25th, 2024. So if you're listening now, it's live. And if it's not, well, then just put in hashtag replay. And also put in where you're from. I always like to know where you guys are from. I always find that fascinating. So it's kind of neat to see people from all over the world just typing in. So, gentlemen, I am ready to start when you are. So here we go. Hey, folks, Dr. Joe Esposito here. I'm glad you're with me today. Today, I'm going to talk about coffee. And what I did this last week, actually. I searched the internet and I said, what are some top topics that people are searching when it comes to healthcare? And surprisingly, coffee was right up there. And I thought, let's talk about this, but I'm not just going to bash coffee like you think I'm going to. I'm going to talk about some of the benefits of coffee and then the negative side effects, like the good and the bad, so to speak. And then we'll talk about other options because most of you drink coffee for energy, I'm assuming. And we're going to talk about some real simple fixes for that that are just going to blow your mind, that are way, way better than coffee and better energy, better clear thoughts. So to be fair, coffee does contain some essential nutrients. It's high in antioxidants. Now, what antioxidants are is they're chemicals that fight something called free radicals. Now, what are free radicals? You produce free radicals every day if you're eating a bad diet, alcohol, meat, sugar, dairy, coffee, soda, artificial sweeteners, cigarettes, air pollution, stress. You create these molecules, and they're kind of like Pac-Man. They eat through things. Waka, waka, waka. You've heard me say that before. And they're eating through things. Antioxidants stop them from doing damage. They kind of stuff their mouths so they stop doing damage. So antioxidants are good. Coffee has antioxidants in it. And it was funny because I looked at some of the nutrients that are found in coffee. I do that in air quotes because some of you listening on radio there. You know, B2, vitamin B2, 11% of the daily recommended dose. B5, 6%. Vitamin B1, 2%. Vitamin B, folate, 1%. Magnesium, potassium, all around 1%. 1%, essentially negligible. So from a nutrition standpoint, coffee is not nutritious. It does have antioxidants in it, but so does an apple. Okay, so we're going to talk about what that all means in a second. Now, all the nutrients, substantially more nutrients, you can get from something called Dr. Joe's Super Greens, Dr. Joe's Essential Source. They're 2 powders. They taste great, and I mix them together every day. You should too. It's a minimum supplement you should take every day. And the Super Greens, the Essential Source, are going to give you exponentially, astronomically more nutrients than a cup of coffee would. So you want to make sure that you're doing those on a regular basis, Super Greens and Essential Source. And I don't want you to look at coffee as a supplement or a vitamin. Okay, it does have some antioxidants. But this is the sad part. Typical American diet or Western diet provides more antioxidants from coffee than from fruits and vegetables combined. So we're getting more antioxidants from drinking something that's I'm not a fan of than if you should. And also coffee is one of the most sprayed foods there are. When I say sprayed, chemicals. And many times the chemicals that are used are fungicides because coffee, when it's picked, is stored in these big bins and then fungus grows. So we spray chemicals on it to kill the fungus, but also pesticides and herbicides. Pesticides kill bugs, herbicides kill weeds, by the way, in case you want to know the difference. And then we have the mold, the anti-mold chemicals. So it's very, very highly sprayed food. So I'll throw it out. I'll give you the spoiler alert. If you're going to do coffee, and I'm going to give you options to coffee too. Hopefully you'll go the options. But if you're going to do coffee, I want you to do organic only. That's it. Just that simple. Just do organic. You're not going to get those pesticides and chemicals. If you could do organic decaf, better still. But at least I'm begging you, please, if you're going to do coffee, organic only. Because coffee's a diuretic, makes you pee. So if you drink coffee, you have to drink a lot of water to replace the fluid. Coffee can irritate your bowels. And many people say, well, I have to have my coffee to get my bowels moving every day. True. but a cup of hot water would probably do a similar thing over time because your colon has gotten used to the acids in coffee irritating the bowels, causing them to contract. And it works. I'm giving you the benefits here. But I'd rather you not have to irritate your bowels to make them work. Your bowels should work because of a high fiber diet and a high fluid diet. You shouldn't have to rely on irritating the bowels to make them work. So it can be a stimulant. So I'm talking about the good of coffee, and then we're going to talk about other things about coffee. So coffee, of course, contains caffeine. That's a stimulant, and it can enhance brain function and boost metabolism. So there's a coffee pro. Give me the pros and cons. I'm trying to be fair here. Caffeine, most commonly consumed psychoactive substance in the world, meaning it affects the brain. Another term that's kind of more modern is nootropic, Nootrophic. Nootropic is a supplement you take to make your brain work better. So by far, caffeine is the number one brain stimulant that we take. Soft drinks, tea, chocolate all contain caffeine, but coffee is by far the biggest source. In fact, if I read this one study and it was correct, 85% of the world does some type of caffeine or like coffee every day. That's amazing to me. And the reason I say that is I haven't had a cup of coffee since I was 16 years old, and I worked at a donut shop. I made the donuts. I was 16 years old, and I remember I had a cup of coffee. I was sitting there with my sister's boyfriend, Marty, and we had a cup of coffee. I was on break, and I thought, this stuff is awful. Why would anybody want to drink this? It tastes terrible. It's so bitter. And then Marty said to me, he said, well, you got to put sugar and cream in it. Because where I grew up in an Italian family, we had espresso, tiny little cups of super concentrated coffee, which I never liked. But my father drank tea and my mother drank tea, so I was not really exposed to coffee until I was out in the real world at 16. I told him I was 14, actually. I told him I was 16, and that's how I got the job. Most of my jobs before 18, I gave them my wrong age, because back then you didn't test. Nobody asked questions. I just wanted to work. All I wanted to do was work, and if I could do whatever they needed me to do. I was a big kid, so I got away with it. So I realized, why are we putting sugar and cream and all these other sweeteners into coffee to make it taste better? Why do we want to do that? It tastes awful. So even back then, before I was who I am today, I was thinking these thoughts. So caffeine content, single cup of coffee, can range from 30 milligrams to 300 milligrams. The average is about 90 to 100 milligrams of caffeine. And it's funny because I saw this the other day. It's a soda that's sweetened with stevia. Okay, and I like it. I won't say the name, so I'm going to say something derogatory about it now. And I've always said it's a great substitute for soda. Even they have cola, which has caffeine, but instead of drinking all the sugar and high fructose corn syrup, you can do these sodas sweetened with stevia. And I was okay with that. I'm willing to negotiate with you on everything. Just so you know, when it comes to health, I'm willing to negotiate with you because I understand not everybody's ready to jump in and do it all right the first time. So I'll hold your hand. And then it said energy. And I thought, what are they using for energy? B vitamins, adrenal support, ashwagandha. I'm thinking all these things, nitric oxide. I pick it up, all excited about this health drink, and it had caffeine in it. Well, anything with caffeine is going to be an energy drink. Doesn't matter what it is. It could be water and caffeine. So I was a little disappointed, but I digress. A lot of studies demonstrate that caffeine can lead to short-term boost in brain function. I remember in college, I tried it and it worked. It can improve your mood, your reaction time, your vigilance, your general cognitive function. So coffee does have a benefit to stimulate the brain. It can boost metabolism by 3 to 11%. So help you lose weight, but not very well. 3% isn't a whole lot. And it improves exercise performance by about 11 or 12% on average. Now, when it comes to exercise performance and brain function, I take Dr. Joe's nitric oxide support because nitric oxide support opens up your blood vessels, increases circulation to your brain, your heart, your lungs, your muscles, your sex organs. And so I'm a big fan of nitric oxide support as my energy boost. That's what I take every day. And people say to me, Dr. Joe, how do you keep the energy at your age? I look at people my age and they're like dying, literally dying, or dead. And I'm thinking, why do I have so much energy and they don't? Because I give my body the nutrients that it needs to function properly, as opposed to giving an artificial stimulant, which is what caffeine would be. So nitric oxide, absolutely positively, my third favorite supplement. Super Green's an essential source of my first favorite supplements, Tide. And then nitric oxide is my second, because nitric oxide is so important. And as we get older, our nitric oxide level drops. We can produce nitric oxide. You don't have to get it from an outside source. But as we get older, I like to give my body the raw materials to produce the nitric oxide. In this case, it's citrulline. And so I give my body the raw materials so that it can produce the nitric oxide, open up my blood vessels, increase circulation to every part of my body. Side note, when it comes to romance for men and women, as we get older, things don't work like they used to. And so if you take nitric oxide support about an hour before romance, in many cases, not all, depending on the source, you see an increase in blood supply. And I've gotten many thank yous from men and women by giving that little tip. So I take it every day anyway for energy, but if there's romance involved, you can kind of take a second dose. It lasts in your body about 6 hours, 6 to 8 hours. So if you take it in the morning, you take a second dose in the afternoon. Great for blood pressure, too. Because when people have high blood pressure, which, by the way, coffee can cause, nitric oxide or caffeine, nitric oxide can open up the blood vessels and counteract that effect. And by the way, if you're taking nitric oxide, you probably won't be taking the caffeine anyway. So just a little side note for you. Now, a lot of these side effects, the metabolism, the brain function, short term. And if you drink coffee every day, the downside is you build up a tolerance or any type of caffeine. And so the effects become less and less powerful. So I had a patient one time, his name was Yogi, I remember, years and years ago, maybe 20, 30 years ago. And he was drinking like 20, 30 cups of coffee a day. And this guy, I remember, he's a short little guy, but he was just, his muscles were like tapping on wood. It was so hard. And it wasn't because he worked out so hard. It's because he was so spasmed. Everything was so spasmed. And trying to give him chiropractic adjustments was a nightmare because he was so tight. And he lost his family. He lost his job, business because he was so strung out, he couldn't focus. He went beyond a little bit of benefit from caffeine, and he just couldn't quit. And it really kind of motivated me to do a lot of research into coffee way back then. So coffee can protect against Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. So this is a benefit. Alzheimer's disease, the worst common cause of neurodegenerative disease and the leading cause of dementia. There's different types of dementia. Studies have shown that coffee drinkers show up to 65% lower risk of developing Alzheimer's disease. That's good. Parkinson's, second most common neurodegenerative disease, is caused by death of dopamine-generated neurons in the brain. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter that helps you calm down and relax. And so if the dopamine levels are low, your body can't suppress parts of the brain, and then you start having these tremors and these uncontrollable movements. There are studies out, I reported on this a while ago, fava beans, and I think they're called velvet beans, have very high in dopamine. And giving a serving of fava beans was the equivalent of taking one dose of dopamine medications that they give to Parkinson patients. So for Parkinson patients, we need to increase their dopamine production by giving them things like fava beans, but also fixing their digestive system. Because the amino acid named tyrosine becomes dopamine in the brain. And if you don't have enough tyrosine, you can't produce dopamine. With Parkinson's, you already have problem producing dopamine. And if you have acid reflux, heartburn, burping, gas, bloating, that can affect the production of tyrosine as well because you're not digesting your proteins and breaking them down into amino acids. And amino acid tyrosine is one of the amino acids. So if you have heartburn or acid reflux, many times we need to adjust or pull your stomach down away from the diaphragm. And when we pull the stomach down away from the diaphragm, many cases fixes the acid reflux, constipation, diarrhea, bloating. But I feel more importantly, it allows you to start producing the neurotransmitters in the brain because you're breaking down your proteins. You got to give your body the raw materials to work. It's just that simple. There's only one vitamin your body can produce on its own, and that's vitamin D. Everything else has to come from an outside source. And if you're eating a standard American diet, alcohol, meat, sugar, dairy, coffee, soda, artificial sweetener, you're not giving your body the nutrients that it needs to function. So you might survive, but you're not going to thrive. And you're not going to survive at the best you possibly can. So coffee drinkers, 32 to 60% lower risk of Parkinson's, but why don't we just eat fava beans instead? Why don't we take nitric oxide support if we need energy? Why don't we take B-complex, Dr. Joe's B-complex? So spoiler alert, I'm going to talk about this later too. The energy cocktail that I recommend instead of coffee would be Dr. Joe's B Complex, Dr. Joe's Adrenal Support, because it has herbs in it called adaptogens to help your adrenal glands work better, water, Super Greens, an essential source, and then digestive enzymes. Digestive enzymes help break down your proteins into amino acids to produce the neurotransmitters in the brain. Now, if you have low blood pressure, don't take nitric oxide. I had a patient just the other day, and we talked about it, and she's, I don't know, maybe 90 pounds. And she took one nitric oxide, and she says, oh my God, she's 72 years old. She goes, I felt so much better, so much clearer. My bowels started working better. I felt great. She said, my blood pressure dropped about 2 points, and she's already low. She said, should I take more than 1 capsule a day? I said, no, stop at 1. I take 4 a day, and I don't have high blood pressure, but I'm okay. So that's the cocktail that would work way better than coffee. And here's the thing. Even all of them added up together is cheaper than a cup of coffee in a fancy coffee shop. So you're getting major, major benefits on multiple levels, no downside. Coffee is also an acid. When you put acid in your body has to use calcium to neutralize the acid. So the body takes calcium out of the bones to neutralize the acids. Alcohol, meat, sugar, dairy, soda, artificial sweeteners, coffees, breads, cookies, cakes, donuts, pastas, these are acid foods. And your body has to neutralize those acids with minerals. And one of the minerals it uses is calcium. So I've had many patients over the years come in with thinning bones. And they say, well, the doctor said I should take calcium supplements because I have thin bones. It's not going to work. I've never seen it work, ever, just taking calcium supplements. Because if you keep putting acid in the body, you're going to use up that calcium. And a bone is made up of a lot more than just calcium. It's made of magnesium. You need magnesium, you need vitamin D, you need boron, silica. You need a lot of things to build this bone, not just calcium. Calcium is the main ingredient, but it's not the only ingredient. And so people taking calcium have never, in my experience, ever rebuilt the bones. Now, I've had a lot of people take supplements, Super Green Essential Source, digestive enzymes to break down the food, glutathione, adrenal support, and the bones come back. They get stronger. So I know the formula that works in many cases. Calcium is not part of it. Isn't that ironic? But I digress. We're talking today about the good and bad of coffee. So if you're going to drink coffee, make sure it's organic. Organic decaf is better. Make sure that you drink a lot of water because it is a diuretic. It'll make you pee. And you got to replace the nutrients that it can exhaust from your body, like calcium. But taking a calcium supplement isn't going to do it. I want you to take calcium in the form of food. Things like Super Green, Essential Source, fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds. Now, you don't have to do everything I say. I need to remind myself to remind you. This is a journey. Health is a journey. It doesn't end. I remember I was laughing when years ago when insurance companies came out with something called HMOs. And HMOs dictated what kind of care patients could get. And I remember thinking to myself, well, this patient is only allowed 10 visits a year, 20 visits a year, whatever it is. How many visits to a doctor would I want to go to? Chiropractic, medical, dentist, whatever it is, if I needed care? And my answer was as many as I need. So insurance company says, we're only going to give you 10 visits. We're only going to give you 20 visits, whether it's chiropractic, physical therapy, medicine, whatever it is. That makes no sense. It makes sense to them because they're making money. But it makes no sense to your health because you get as many as you need. Maybe I don't need as many because I eat well as compared to somebody who doesn't eat well. So that's how I feel about supplementation. That's how I feel about chiropractic care. How much do I need? As much as I need. And that's why I do recommend people take supplements every day because you just don't get enough nutrients in your food. Even if you're eating an organically grown raw fruit and vegetable diet, chances are you're still going to need to supplement something. So I take at least Super Greens and Essential Source every day. That's the minimum. At my age, whenever I eat a cooked meal, I take digestive enzymes. I take nitric oxide every day to keep my circulation going properly. Vitamin D, I'm not out in the sun 20 minutes 4 or 5 times a week. I take vitamin D as well. So I take adrenal support. So we can customize a plan for our patients, but we always start, if you need a starter kit, that's my starter kit, at least Super Greens, Essential Source, and vitamin D. Nitric oxide, of course, if you have normal high blood pressure. Now, folks, if you want to come see us, We have offices in Marietta, Duluth, Stockbridge, and West Cobb. If you have neck pain, back pain, shoulder pain, numbness, tingling, sciatica, headaches, digestive issues, nutritional concerns, stop suffering needlessly. Go to my website, drjoe.com, drjoe.com. Make an appointment to come see us now. We can get you in this week, I promise. Whenever you're listening to this, it's going to be this week. So we have always have new patient appointments available. Stop suffering, because every day that goes by, it's harder and harder to fix whatever you have. Ask an oncologist, ask a gastroenterologist, ask a rheumatologist. Whatever the patient has, the quicker we get to it, the easier it is to deal with. So drjoe.com, we see children. Had a patient this week say, "Can you see my child? He's very young, but it looks like his head is tilted. He's a baby, an infant." I said, "Yes, absolutely." The youngest I ever adjusted somebody was literally in the delivery room. And her atlas was twisted over to the left, and I pushed the atlas back over. Atlas is the top bone in your neck. So drjoe.com, book your appointments. Normally, it's $940 for the first visit. For my listeners, I've reduced that to $299. Exam, x-rays, consultation, first treatment, going over the x-rays on your follow-up visit, and a complete nutrition evaluation. I don't know anybody who's doing that at any cost, certainly not $299. And then whatever care is necessary beyond that, we'll discuss it with you. You can decide what direction to go in. You're in charge of your own health. I just want to be the captain of the ship. I want to kind of guide you in the right direction so you don't mess up, hit the rocks metaphorically. So drjoe.com. All the supplements we talked about are also available on the website, drjoe.com, in the store section. When you order, we either ship that day or the next business day, or come by and pick them up. Marietta, Duluth, Stockbridge, and West Cobb. Save yourself some shipping costs in the Atlanta area. Happy to do that. You can pay the post office, or you can keep the money. It doesn't matter to me. So we're talking today about the good, the good and the bad of coffee. Now, coffee drinkers have lower risk of liver disease. So there's a good. Liver, incredibly important organ, hundreds of different functions in the body. It's very sensitive to alcohol, high fructose corn syrup, and other sources of fructose. End-stage liver damage is called cirrhosis, and that involves most of your liver turning into scar tissue. Coffee drinkers have up to 84% lower risk of developing cirrhosis, with the strongest effect on those who drink on a regular basis. Liver cancer is common, second leading cause of death, cancer worldwide, and coffee drinkers have up to 40% lower risk. Now, so again, there are some benefits to coffee. All those benefits that I just listed, you can get from fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds, dietary changes, super greens and essential source, nitric oxide, B-complex, adrenal support, without the downsides, without the pesticides, without the herbicides, without the chemicals that are added, without the diuretic effect, without the acid sucking calcium out of the bones, without irritation of the bowels, without the cost. Gosh, coffee's expensive. If nothing else, you could save several $100s a year. That will more than offset your cost of supplements. So I'm showing you how to get healthier. I'm not saying coffee is all bad, but you can get the benefits from other things so much cheaper with so many positive benefits as opposed to negative side effects, I should say. Now, some of the downside, of course, coffee can cause anxiety, depression. I wouldn't be right to talk about the good things about coffee can do without me talking about the downside. Truth is, there's some negative aspects of coffee. Consuming too much caffeine can lead to jitteriness, anxiety, heart palpitations, even exacerbated panic attacks. I've had many patients over the years that drank a lot of coffee and it affected their moods. Now, we live in a weird society. Mood swings are everywhere, men and women. Women have it a lot with their cycles. It's just part of physiology. Men can have it if they're too hungry, if they're tired, if they're grumpy. So one of the things I want you to do is realize when you're having a bad day. You know when you're having a bad day. And I remember one of my secretaries came to me years ago, and she's still with me, and she said, "This is not a good week to talk to me about a lot of things." I said, "Thank you." All I wanted to know, I just wanted information. So if you're jittery, if you're anxious, if you have heart palpitation, if you have high blood pressure, you might want to consider cutting out the coffee. In a second, when I come back, I'm going to tell you a trick that I teach my patients, and most people can give up coffee in 4 days. And I'll show you that trick in a second. If you have any questions, send them to me through my website, drjoe.com, drjoe.com. If you'd like to make an appointment, drjoe.com. If you want to order supplements, drjoe.com. Follow me on social media, at Dr. Joe Esposito. We post health tips every single day. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. please do that as a favor to me. I give you all this information, happy to answer your questions. I'm going to ask you to do me a solid and just follow me on social media at Dr. Joe Esposito. If you're a podcast junkie, go to your podcast service, type in Dr. Joe for the health of it. Dr. Joe for the health of it. We post podcasts twice a week. Folks, I'm Dr. Joe Esposito. Any questions, send them to my website, drjoe.com. Don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back. And we're done for that section. What do you got for me?
After going to bed, my feet remain cold hours after the rest of my body warms up. Is this a circulation problem?
Could be circulatory, could be neurological. If you have a pinched nerve in the low back, the nerves control the blood vessels. Just had this conversation with somebody the other day. I was out in an event, and they stopped me, which they always do, and they said, hey, I got this problem. And it was exactly what you just said. And I said, do you have low back pain? And they said, yes. I said, the nerves in the low back control the blood vessels in the legs. Oh. So they came in for adjustments, and after 2 or 3 adjustments, they said it started to get better. It wasn't better yet, but it's still early on in the treatment. So nitric oxide might help, but I'd say come see us, because if you do have a pinched nerve, it's a lot more than circulation. That same nerve controls your colon, your sex organs, and your bladder, and we don't want to cut off the nerve supply to that. So come see us and let's check it, and then we can give you a better analysis as to what it is. What else?
Is warm garlic water in the morning healthy?
Yes. That's an easy one. I'm Italian. Garlic is everything to me. So what else you got?
What are the side effects for MS, Parkinson's, and NMS? NMS.
MS? Neuroleptic malignant syndrome. Okay, got it. Okay. What are the symptoms? Each one has a lot of different symptoms, so I don't know if I can answer that one easily. But whenever you see neurological issues, if you start to feel unbalanced, you start to feel like you're falling forward and struggling. Parkinson's, you can't control your hand. And there's resting and intentional tremor. So resting tremor is I'm sitting there and my hand is just shaking. An intentional tremor is when I go to reach for something, I start to shake. Either way, we find it's a dopamine issue in the brain. And things like we said, fava beans, velvet beans, fixing the digestive system to get the raw materials up to the brain to produce dopamine many times is helpful. So with MS, you start to notice that you lose muscle control, you start falling over. And so each one kind of has their own different symptoms, and if you have any of those symptoms, you need to get that tested. You can come see us, we can check it, but we may even refer you out to a neurologist to get a full diagnosis. Here's the thing. Let's assume you get a diagnosis of any one of those 3. What are you going to do about it? And I don't mean to be pompous when I say that, but what are you going to do about it? I don't know. And so that's why my team is very good at diagnosing, but we're really good at treating too. So you might want to come see us if you have any of those symptoms. We'll take a look for you. What do you got?
How does an adrenal gland test show what is wrong with the body?
You can test the adrenal glands many times you test cortisol. And cortisol is supposed to spike in the morning and then drop off as the day goes on. And that's a normal cortisol pattern. If you have high cortisol throughout the day, you're very stressed out. That's bad. If you have low cortisol throughout the day, that's usually worse. That means your adrenal glands are, we metaphorically say burnt out. You're just not producing cortisol and you're crashed all the time. So we test that, and if we see that, we know the adrenal glands are not working as well as they should. And there's other tests we can do as well. But Dr. Joe's Adrenal Support, I take it every day, has a lot of good nutrients in it, but it has eleuthero, it has rhodiola, it has ashwagandha, it has licorice. These are called adaptogens. And adaptogens are herbs that do what your body needs them to do. So if you need to stimulate, you need to suppress, these kind of do what it needs to do. So that's why I'm such a big fan of Adrenal Support. It's not, you don't take it one day like a cup of coffee and say, oh, I got this rush of energy. This is long-term stabilizing energy, hormones, and inflammation. So that's why I take Dr. Joe's Adrenal Support every day. What else you got?
Is mushroom coffee okay?
Yes. What else? Got John working over there.
That's all.
Okay. Garrett, nothing for me? Good. Okay. All right, guys, ready for part 2? Okay. Ready? Hey, folks, Dr. Joe Esposito. If you're just joining me, welcome. If you stayed with me, thanks for staying. I do appreciate that. Well, we're talking today about the good and the bad of coffee. Now, we talked earlier, there are some benefits to coffee. It can help with Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. It can help with liver issues. It can help with memory. It can help with energy, metabolism. However, all those things, there are other ways to get way more benefit without the negative side effects. Coffee is an acid. It robs your body of calcium. When you put acid in your body has to use calcium to neutralize the acid. And the body will take calcium from the bones, the blood. So if I'm eating alcohol, meat, sugar, dairy, coffee, soda, artificial sweeteners, breads, cookies, cakes, donuts, pastas, these are acid foods. And the body has to neutralize those acids by giving up minerals. Just how the body works. More acid, more loss of minerals. The interesting part is that if you eat a high acid diet, the chances are you're not eating the foods that are high in minerals to replace the minerals that are being lost. Yeah, I don't see a lot of people eating, fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds, and then eating, steak and coffee or alcohol. So you get a double whammy either way. Double whammy good, double whammy bad if you're eating a good diet or a bad diet. So water alone oftentimes is why you're so tired all the time. And coffee's a diuretic, so this is an interesting twist. Elvis Presley said, I'm caught in a trap. And that's what happens. You drink the coffee, you pee a lot, you dehydrate, you're tired, so you drink more coffee. So if we just drink more water, many times that gives us the energy that we need. That's step one. Everybody should be doing that anyway. So coffee can be addictive, and just missing a few cups can start to lead to withdrawals. And what's the most common withdrawal from coffee is headaches, or caffeine, I should say. Coffee is the number one source of caffeine, but caffeine is in tea, it's in chocolate, energy drinks. They put caffeine in a lot of different places. So caffeine can lead to addiction. Now, when people consume caffeine regularly, they become tolerant to it. And so what do you need? You need more. So it either stops working as it did or a larger dose is needed to produce the same side effects. So the way coffee works, I'll get a little chemistry here for you. There's a chemical in your brain called adenosine. And adenosine is released, and it makes you tired. Adenosine is released, it gets absorbed into something called adenosine receptor sites, and your body gets tired, and you stop working, you go to sleep. Well, caffeine looks like adenosine. This is a real simplified version. So caffeine goes up into the brain, and it blocks up the adenosine receptor sites. So your adenosine can't be absorbed anymore. So now your body doesn't get tired. So caffeine stimulates your nervous system, but it also prevents you from getting tired. Not giving you energy, but preventing you from getting tired. And so your body says, Joe, that's really stupid. I need to rest. Kind of important. So I'm going to make more adenosine receptor sites so I can absorb that adenosine. Well, then you need more coffee because you have more adenosine receptor sites. And so now you just keep going on and on and on. And that's why coming off coffee many times can affect brain function. So it affects the physical structure of the brain, not just the chemistry, but now you come off your coffee and you get headaches. So when I wrote my first book called Eating Right for the Health of It, in there I have a chapter called Kicking the Habit. And the way we kick the habit is like this. You get a cup of organic coffee, no cream, no sugar, and just put it in front of you at the beginning of the day. And every hour you can take 1 or 2 tablespoons of coffee. That's it. 1 or 2 tablespoons. And that gives you enough caffeine to keep you hyped, but it also gives the brain a chance to start to heal those adenosine receptor sites we just talked about so that the adenosine can start functioning normally again. The longest it's ever taken me to get somebody off coffee who really wanted to do it was 4 days. Because you do it for every hour for the first, half a day, and then you skip an hour, and then you forget, and you start feeling okay, and then the next day is a little better, and you eventually just forget that you're supposed to be drinking taking the coffee because you feel better. So there's easy way to kick the habit, and it's addictive. It can lead to tolerance and well-documented withdrawal symptoms, headaches, tiredness, irritability. It's real. And so you may have to suck it up for a couple of days when you're ready to kick your coffee habit, but it's well worth it. And if you replace it with something like Super Greens, an essential source, nitric oxide, only if you have low blood pressure, don't take nitric oxide, B complex, digestive enzymes, life's a whole lot better. Let me tell you. I like being healthy. I've been sick in my life when I was younger, and I'd much rather be healthy. And the benefits are you just age so much slower. I was at a party the other day talking to a guy and a girl, and we were joking around and something about age or something like that. And I said to the girl, how old? I said to them, take a guess. How old do you think I am? And they guessed 18 years younger than I am. And I said, I like that. I'll go with it. They said, how old are you really? I said, I'll go with what you say. I'm going to agree with you. I'll take 40s. And they said, no, how old are you? And I told him, and the girl looked at me and she said, "Oh my gosh, you're as old as my parents." And I felt really old at the moment. But I thought that's awesome that here's somebody who is surrounded by people my age and still guessed 18 years younger. So coffee speeds up your metabolism, but also can speed up the aging process because it is an acid. And it can eat away at your collagen and suck calcium out of the bones. So I'd rather get my energy from healthy sources than unhealthy sources. It just makes more sense. So you can do decaffeinated coffee. That's an option too. Decaffeinated coffee is not caffeine-free. Decaffeinated means less than the original brand. So when you go to these fancy hoity-toity coffee shops where you're spending $8 and $10 for a cup of coffee, and that's the fancy kind, I know. Regular coffee is only about $2, $3. I understand that. It's not organic, first of all. But they have a lot more caffeine than most other coffees. You know, people say, what kind of crack do they put in that coffee? Because I can't stop drinking it. I love it. I'll spend, I won't spend $10 on this shirt because it's a little expensive. But they'll spend $10 two, 3 times a day on a cup of coffee without thinking twice. Or even $3 on a cup of coffee, not drinking twice. So decaffeinated is less than the original brand. So a lot of these fancy coffee shops have very high caffeine content. And that's why you like it so much, because you get hooked on it. And I want more. And so a cup of regular coffee, a cup of decaf that you make at home, a cup of regular coffee you make at home is going to have more caffeine, less caffeine than a cup of decaffeinated from a fancy coffee shop. So decaffeinated and regular really is relative. Decaffeinated from a coffee shop can have more caffeine than a regular cup of other brands. So just realize what you're drinking. It's a marketing ploy. Hey, capitalism, awesome, good for them. However, you don't have to fall for that. And if you like going to the coffee shop and just enjoying the experience, have a cup of herbal tea. You're still there, still spending money, but it's going to be a lot better for you because caffeine does have long-term negative side effects, and the negative far outweighs the positive, in my opinion, because you can get all the positive from other sources without any negative. Cheaper. Why wouldn't you do it? So decaffeinated coffee is made from extracting caffeine from the coffee beans using solvents. So many times there's leftover solvents. So if you're going to do decaffeinated, I recommend organic only because organic, they use a water process. They kind of flush over and wash off the caffeine. If you're doing just regular conventional coffee, they're using solvents, chemicals. And you run the risk of those chemicals having residual effects left over in the coffee too. So it's not just the caffeine, it's not just the chemicals and the pesticides and the herbicides, it's the solvents that can be in the coffee as well. So the only benefit I see from coffee, it gives you energy, but we have Super Green Essential Source, nitric oxide, B complex, adrenal support, digestive enzymes to break down nutrients. So we have answers to that, and many times just water is better. Now, again, organic coffee, better than regular. Organic tea, you can do organic teas if you want to. That's a better choice, and it's going to have less caffeine than regular, certainly coffee. Or I just drink herbal teas. I drink about 2 or 3 cups of herbal tea every day. And you could do slippery elm, which is good for the digestive system, good for your throat, your mucous membranes. You can do mint, which is good for digestion. You can do chamomile, which is good for sleep and relaxation. So there's lots of different teas that have benefits, medicinal benefits, if you just like the event of drinking something warm. So decaffeinated may be a better choice. If it's going to be decaffeinated, make sure it's organic, but you're not going to have those negative side effects. So let's talk about, we talked about breaking the addiction, kicking the habit, drinking 1 tablespoon an hour, or 2 tablespoons an hour if you need to. But financial savings, this was fun. I saw this breakdown. If you do a latte, just $3.85 a day. So this must be an old research here. $1,400 a year, $1,000 a year if you just do an energy drink every day. That's $3 a day. That's $21 a week. That's $1,000 a year. So you're saving a lot of money if you don't do these things. Blood pressure is a biggie when it comes to caffeine because the number one medication patients come to me with, is blood pressure medication. Number 2 is cholesterol and diabetes, kind of tied for second. I never did a formal study, but it looks like it's about tied. Blood pressure by far number 1. But caffeine can raise your blood pressure a few points and even more in some people by just having 1 cup. So quitting coffee or caffeine can lower your blood pressure and keep your heart from working as hard. You get better sleep. Caffeine can greatly reduce the amount of quality of somebody's sleep. Drinking coffee and energy drinks too late in a day can interfere with getting to sleep quickly, and it has a half-life of about 6 to 8 hours. Now, I was at my radio studio the other day talking to my friend Ann, and she said, I heard you say something about a half-life of caffeine. What did that mean? Half of it's going to be out of your system in 4 to 6 hours. What does that mean, though? Well, the other half's still there. So if you drink coffee in the morning at 8 o'clock, by 12 o'clock, half of it's out. By 3 o'clock, you already have another cup of coffee. That's why we have a coffee break in the afternoon. Well, how about we take a Super Greens and Essential Source break? How about we take a nitric oxide break? How about we take a B-complex break and see what happens? Now, it may take a couple of days for these supplements to kick in because caffeine happens really fast, but it's certainly worth it. Another thing is it can affect your mood. Caffeine alters your mood. We talked about that earlier. Many people begin grumpy until they have their morning coffee. You know, there's jokes, the cat that's all grumpy, can't wait to have my coffee, you know, but first I must have coffee. I mean, there's so many jokes about it because 85% of the world does some type of stimulant every day, and coffee being the number one stimulant. So, again, if you're just tuning in, if you're going to drink coffee, I recommend organic only. No other option but organic. Organic decaf is better still. Still has some caffeine in it, but not as much as the regular. So organic decaf would be the ultimate if you have to drink coffee. Now, there are coffee substitutes. There's something like Postum. It's acidy. It's okay. I never liked coffee, so I really can't, say I like the flavor of coffee. But Postum is a good option if you want to do something that feels like coffee and smells like coffee, smells like-ish like coffee. So that might be a better. Chicory might be another choice. You can maybe do that. There's chicory that you can do that has a coffee flavor. Many times they mix the chicory with coffee. But if you're grumpy and you need coffee to function, you got to consider that why am I so grumpy without coffee? Coffee is not anything more than a stimulant. Many people with anxiety, when they cut out the coffee, the anxiety gets better. So it affects those adenosine receptor sites in the brain. And caffeine also stimulates your adrenal glands. Now, your adrenal glands produce adrenaline. They produce prostaglandins, which control inflammation. And they produce your hormones, pregnenolone. And that becomes your hormones. And so you can essentially burn out your adrenal glands. And earlier we talked about this. If I do a cortisol test for you, we can do saliva, we can do urinary, we can do several different ways. But the saliva test is real simple. I can even send you the kit if you want to. And your cortisol should spike in the morning. It wakes you up. And then as the day goes on, it drops. And then at night, it should be the lowest. If your cortisol is high all day, you're really stressed out. And I find many people that drink coffee have a high cortisol level. And it's a high cortisol level until it's not. What does that mean? Well, eventually the cortisol production just can't keep up with the demand, and then you crash. And then you need the 5, 6, 7 cups of coffee a day just to kind of jumpstart whatever is left in those burned out adrenal glands. And that's why I take Dr. Joe's adrenal support every day, because I have stress too. I don't do coffee, but we all have stress in our lives. I want to nourish my adrenal glands the best I can. So when patients come to our office, we check the nervous system. If you have neck pain, back pain, shoulder pain, numbness, tingling, sciatica, we check to see what's causing it. We want to get to the cause, not just treat the symptoms. I am not against just treating the symptoms. If I have a headache, I want to take some acetaminophen and get rid of my headache. But way more important is I want to find out, why do I have a headache? That's more important. And then I try to get to the cause. Is it a pinched nerve in my neck? Am I dehydrated? Did I do monosodium glutamate? Did I do aspartame or artificial sweeteners? All these things can trigger headaches. But I want to find out why. So if I'm taking supplements, I know that I'm giving my body the nutrients that it needs. But that's not going to fix a pinched nerve. So in our patients, we check the pinched nerves, we check the nutrition, the dietary status, and we check the digestive system. Because if you're not digesting your food properly, you can't absorb your nutrients. And the most common cause of digestive issues is the stomach pushed up against the diaphragm, physically. And we can physically adjust or pull the stomach down away from the diaphragm. Wheat and dairy products are the two foods that cause the most distress to the digestive system. So if we can get somebody to control their wheat and dairy intake, pull the stomach away from the diaphragm, check the nerve supply to the digestive system or any organ, now we have a healthcare plan. Most of you have health insurance. Very few of you have a healthcare plan. Fix the nervous system, fix the digestive system, fix your diet. That's a plan. So if you'd like to make an appointment to come see us in the Atlanta area, we have offices in Marietta, Duluth, Stockbridge, and West Cobb. Go to drjoe.com, drjoe.com. You can book right there online. Call us if you have questions. We're happy to answer them for you. And we'll get you set up as soon as possible. Stop putting it off. Every day, I've been in practice almost 40 years. Every day, patients come in and they say, Doc, I've been meaning to come see you for blank. 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. I had somebody the other day, I spoke at their high school 30 some odd years ago. I've been meaning to come see you since you spoke at our high school. You changed my life. Took you 30 years to get here? We've been open every day. So anyway, come see us and stop suffering needlessly. drjoe.com. Normally the first visit is $940. We've reduced that to $299. Yes, we accept insurance. It depends what your insurance covers. We're in most networks, but it depends if your insurance has any decent coverage. Don't blame your doctor if your insurance stinks. I got to defend all doctors right now. You have bad insurance, whatever it is doesn't cover what you need, and then you blame the doctors. No, we're willing to give you the treatment. The insurance company isn't willing to pay for it. Insurance company's job is to make money. It's not to pay claims. It's to make money. And the more claims they pay, the less money they make. So drjoe.com, come see us. We'll work with you. We have cash plans available, payment plans available, some 18 months without interest. I mean, we make it really easy to be a patient. And chiropractic care is the most effective, least expensive treatment for back pain. Why wouldn't you start there? So drjoe.com, make your appointments now. All right, we're talking about the good and the bad of coffee if you're just tuning in. I'm Dr. Joe Esposito. Headaches, of course. Caffeine is a major trigger for headaches. An alteration in your normal caffeine consumption can result in withdrawal. That's what we talked about. Some people take caffeine to get rid of a headache. It gives me a headache. So you kind of got to know what you do. Think about the convenience, though, how coffee rules your life. Many of you, coffee is a daily routine. You don't have to stop at the coffee shop. You don't have to stop at the convenience store. You don't have to take coffee, make sure you have it at home. Make sure you have it at the office. Imagine backpacking or going on a trip without taking all your coffee. I got to pack my medication. I got to pack I got to pack my supplements. Oh, I got to pack my coffee too. So cost, convenience, health, fewer trips to the bathroom, healthier teeth, weight loss. Caffeine can actually stimulate your metabolism, like we said. But if you think about this, just one energy drink a day has 200 calories. A latte, 250 calories. Other coffee, like a cola, 239 calories. So there's so many calories involved in your caffeine drinks, unless you're doing just a black coffee, of course. And then if you start throwing lattes in there, it becomes a lot of sugar. And now we have a lot of other ways to get it. You can have bubble tea. Many bubble teas have caffeine in them, and they're just sugar and candy gels, many of them. Sugar in little balls that you chew on them, and they burst open in your mouth. I mean, crazy how we've modified different ways to get caffeine in the body. You know, it's better for the environment. And if you cut back your caffeine, you don't need to drink as much because you'll say, oh, I get a better result from just one cup. You'll have less cardiac events, increased productivity. You reduce your risk of type 2 diabetes. Black coffee might actually help diabetes in some cases. But sugary coffee, caffeinated beverages, of course, that increases your risk of diabetes. People who consume sugary drinks regularly, 1 or 2 cans or more a day, have a 26% greater risk of developing type 2 diabetes. It's not good. Now, again, health is a journey. I'm not asking you to do this all at once. I gave you some tips on how to quit. Little simple things that you can do. Like if you're just joining us, I want to make sure I tell you. Get a black cup of coffee, organic, put it in front of you, and take 1 tablespoon every hour. And what will happen is, after about 2 or 3 days, you're going to forget that you're even taking the coffee because you've gone through your withdrawal system. You withdrew from the caffeine without having withdrawal symptoms. And it's just an amazing thing. Drink more water. Coffee is a diuretic. Now, you may even have a little constipation when you give up the coffee because it's been irritating your bowels all these years. More fruits, more vegetables, more water. We have a supplement called Dr. Joe's Intestinal Formula. I do recommend that for anybody who isn't having at least one bowel movement a day, preferably two. So if you're not having at least one bowel movement a day, you might want to consider Dr. Joe's Intestinal Formula. But ultimately, that's the only supplement I want you to not take, because I want to get to the cause of the constipation, not just treat the symptoms. And if you do have irritable bowel syndrome, Crohn's, colitis, of course, coffee can tear you up in many cases. But just by cutting back wheat and dairy products, many times that calms down the bowels and the irritable bowel syndrome goes away. So a lot of you have been suffering all these years and doing whey protein, dairy product. You're doing bagels for breakfast, wheat product. You do ice cream, dairy product. And when you cut those out, suddenly the bowels have a chance to heal. Your bowels turn over cells about every 3 to 5 days. Really fast turnover rate. They heal very quickly when you stop irritating them, in many cases. Then we have to check the nerve supply in the low back that controls the bowels. If you have low back pain, you probably have the same nerve being pinched that goes to your bowels. So when you come to our office, we check the nerve supply. We check to see if you have pinched nerves. 90% of your nerves don't feel pain, so you can have a pinched nerve and not know it. So my team of doctors are trained to check the nerves that feel pain, but also check the nerves that don't feel pain. In fact, it's caused us now, we actually have a protocol for erectile dysfunction. We do something called acoustic wave therapy to stimulate new blood supply into the area. We give you home therapies to use. We get you on nitric oxide to open up the blood supply. We check the nerves in the low back to make sure it's not being pinched. And in many cases, most cases, we're getting amazing results without drugs, without injections, without negative side effects of getting men to be able to function again. And it's a whole protocol we created because it's such a common problem now. Pinched nerves, bad diet, dehydration, high blood pressure. All these things can affect it. 30 years ago, it wasn't so bad. It's pretty bad now. So if you'd like to make an appointment for chiropractic care, for pain management, for digestive issues, brain function, supplements, erectile dysfunction, go to my website, drjoe.com. You can book it right now. We have offices in Marietta, Duluth, Stockbridge, and West Cobb in the Atlanta area. Normally, the first visit is $940. I've reduced that for you, my listeners, to $299. And then after we do the exam and the x-rays and the first treatment, and we do a follow-up treatment, we go over the x-rays with you and show you the x-rays, we do a nutrition evaluation on you, we'll say this we think is going to be the best route for you. And whatever you decide to do at that point, totally up to you. We accept all insurances. It depends what your insurance covers. We accept you. If they don't accept treatment, get a new insurance policy is what I got to tell you. There's only 3 major insurance companies, so you're kind of in trouble. And they all kind of follow the same guidelines. So drjoe.com, but don't let the insurance company dictate your health and your life. It's a whole lot cheaper to be healthy just to be sick. So drjoe.com, follow me on social media at Dr. Joe Esposito, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. I do a lot for you guys, give you a lot of information. It's my gift to you. All I ask is you follow me on social media at Dr. Joe Esposito. We post health tips every single day. You'll be blown away. You'll enjoy it so much. If you like podcasts, it's Dr. Joe for the Health of It on your podcast service. Dr. Joe for the Health of It, and all separate words. And so come see us. Stop suffering needlessly. The biggest complaint I get, by far, why didn't I do this sooner? drjoe.com, folks. I'm Dr. Joe Esposito. Thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you next time. All right. All right. I got lots of answers. I got an hour to answer questions, so go ahead.
What should be done for dysbiosis?
Nutrition, chiropractic care, check the nerve supply into the organs, make sure everything is working properly. And then you got to figure out why you have the dysbiosis. What's killing off the good bacteria in your colon? So you got to look at, are you drinking chlorinated water? Are you swimming in a chlorinated pool? Have you taken antibiotics? Are you eating meat, dairy, which have antibiotics in them? Conventional does. You want to stop that because that's killing it off. And then things like Super Greens and Essential Source have pre and probiotics in them. You can add Dr. Joe's digestive enzymes. Whenever I eat a cooked meal, I take digestive enzymes. I had soup right before I came on the air today. Took some digestive enzymes. So you got to figure out what's causing the imbalance in what's called the microbiome, the bacteria in your colon. And then Dr. Joe's probiotics. So probiotics is a good start, but we got to do a lot more than that. So if you go to my website, drjoe.com, and type in digestion, we'll give you a good answer for that. It'll talk about how to fix the digestive system in most cases. What else?
I drink organic coffee a few times a week, yet should I also increase my daily dose of D3?
Everyone should increase their daily dose of D3. Most of us are getting not enough. Yeah, so I take vitamin D3 with K2. Make sure you get K2 with it because D3 does a lot of things. One of them is absorb calcium. K2 takes the calcium out of the blood and puts it in the bones. So if you don't have the D3 with the K2, you might be building up calcium inside your blood vessels. So if you're doing a cup of coffee every now and then, you should probably you want to do about 5,000 international units of vitamin D3. Because you said, do I need to increase it? I don't know. I don't know what you're taking. So about 5,000 IUs a day is good. So if you're doing that, you should be fine.
What can be done for HIV?
Wow, a lot of things. It's autoimmune disease. So go to my website, drjoe.com, and type in autoimmune in the search bar. I'm not saying I have a treatment for HIV. What I am saying is if we stabilize the immune system, the virus is then suppressed. And that's what's so important. So type the words autoimmune in the search bar, and then after you listen to it, chances are you want to come see us, and then we'll be able to put together a protocol specifically for you. But do not ignore that. As you know, it's not something that should be ignored. So,
is black tea a healthy choice?
It's a better choice. It's not a healthy choice. It's a better choice. Make sure it's organic, though. It's still going to have aluminum in it. Tea naturally absorbs, orange pekoe tea absorbs aluminum from the soil, even if it's organic. So it's a better choice than coffee, but still not great. What else?
Is it appropriate and healthy to take motion sickness medicine before riding on an expressway?
It's not healthy. It may be appropriate. I get seasick very easily, and I get motion sick very easily, too. I have a traumatic brain injury. I got hit by a car when I was 10, and so I don't know if that caused it or not, because I remember going fishing with my father before that and never been on a boat before. You learn quickly, you get seasick, really bad. So I don't think that caused it. I've always had it. But understand the downside. You might want to consider ginger tea instead. Try the ginger tea one day and do it. See if that works. What I do is I buy organic ginger. I peel it. I have a glove, by the way. There's gloves you can use for peeling so you don't cut your fingers because ginger is really weird shaped. And then I put it in a food processor like a Vitamix, and I cover it about half with organic lemon juice. And I puree the heck out of it. Puree it until it's really broken down because it has strings in it. And then I pour it in an ice cube tray, and I have these ginger ice cubes. And in the morning, I had one this morning. I'll have that. If you do honey, you can use honey in it. You can do stevia if you want to, and just drink the ginger tea right before a trip. And let's see if that helps, because ginger tea is really good for motion sickness. So.
Is coffee a healthier choice than coffee?
Coffee, I don't know what it is, so I can't tell you. So.
It looks like it's brewed cocoa beans that have not been roasted.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so it's going to have caffeine. It's a way better choice than coffee if that's what it is, absolutely. And try to do organic if you can. Yeah. Okay. A lot of questions today. You guys are right on today.
Aren't there neuroprotective benefits of coffee?
Yes. Earlier in the show, we talked about the benefits of coffee. But the neuroprotective benefits far are outweighed by the downside of them. We talked about Parkinson's, headaches, dementia, Alzheimer's, and yes, it can help prevent those. It can help with those. However, you get the same benefit from getting a good diet, super greens, an essential source, without the downside. So people say, well, coffee has some benefits. It does have some benefits, absolutely. But the risks, in my opinion, far outweigh the benefits. So,
is there a relationship between glutathione and dreams?
I have never heard that, so I can't comment. I don't know that. I take glutathione every day, and I dream every day, but I don't know if it affects my dreams. I have no idea. You got me on that one.
Are magnesium supplements for sleeping good?
Depends what kind you're taking. If you take magnesium citrate, you may wake up running to the bathroom. So magnesium threonate would be the best kind for sleep. A magnesium that has a mixture of different magnesiums in it. A magnesium complex might be okay. But magnesium threonate is probably going to be your best bet for sleep. Yeah. Watch out for the citrate. It'll keep you going.
That is all. Just a note to our listeners that longer questions can be sent directly to Dr. Joe.
Yeah, if you have real long questions, go to drjoe.com and send me the questions there. People many times will post long questions when I do podcasts and things, and the answer just doesn't fit on the platform. So I just can't go ahead and do it. So yeah, if it's a long question, I may say just send me an email. If you don't send me an email, I'm not going to answer you because I can't answer on the platform. The answer is too long. I'm not ignoring you. I can't answer on the platform. What else you got? Oh, Garrett's got some questions for me.
And then also, that's also for referrals. If you're outside of the Atlanta metro area and you'd like a referral, shoot us a message on the website using the chat with us feature, and we can get back to you if we've got a good referral in your area.
Yeah, if I can help you, I will. If I can't, I don't know everybody, by the way. I mean, I know people say, who do you know in England? I said, I don't know who does. People say, who does what you do in whatever, London or Germany or something. It's like, I don't know who does what I do in the town next to me. So we go pretty in depth, and I don't know many doctors that go even a fraction of the depth that we do when it comes to healthcare. Now, we can do remote consultations as well, if that would be helpful. Nothing else? Gentlemen, thank you. Folks, thanks for tuning in. I do appreciate it. Again, the website, drjoe.com. Please follow me on all platforms, and we'll talk to you next week.